you've got everything that you need. You remember we got to task 3 and we've already done part A of task 3. So we're going to carry on from part B. Okay, so just for anybody that's new, what I say to everybody at the beginning of this is that this course really is designed for those students that have done indirect tax already, as in the lessons, wherever it is that you might be studying. So you've actually done the lessons and it's just a bit of revision really, just to talk through a mock exam. You know, we hope to get to the end of it. I'm hopeful that we will. Probably won't get to do any of the AAT things that I wanted to do, but that's not a problem because it's just every little bit. Just hold on a second. My dogs are going crazy. That's worse than me talking like a Dalek, isn't it? Yeah, so we just go through based on knowledge that you should have already had. What I also say, and not everybody does it, but what I also say is these are the tasks I think I'm going to get through this evening. So basically I usually email everybody on a Monday for this course, and I'll just say, right, I'm hoping, it's getting a bit boring now because we never get to where I think I'm going to get to, but I'll always say I'm hoping to get to task 6 tonight, so have a read through and go through it in detail. Okay, so lots of correspondence. I send lots of emails out, so so you should get everything that you need. Right, we're on part B then, guys. So just for the people watching, what I've got open on my screen, I've got some course notes that are the FI, the first intuition course notes, which obviously you've not got a copy of, or some of you will if you're an FI student. An important thing that I'll be sending out is the reference material. Now, you might already have this. This is something that is very, very important because you get given it in the exam. Not a piece of paper, but it's there for you to be able to look at. Also, what else have I got? I've got some workings in case I need it, an import and an export document that I think I might need this evening, and the mock questions that we're up to. So I'm going to carry on. So like I say, you should have realistically already potentially done this course. So you should sort of already know the answers to these questions, are ready for a discussion in them. But if we were to look at these different schemes, okay, which schemes for small businesses do you think would reduce the administration burden of doing your VAT return? So there is a special scheme that you can do for when you're doing a VAT return. So a flat rate scheme, you've got annual accounting scheme, you've got the cash accounting scheme, and then you've got the normal standard scheme, which is usually, you know, you pay your VAT returns quarterly. So if you were having a look at this, based on the fact that, you know, you should have already done some sort of study because this is just a revision course, what are your thoughts on this? Do we think it would be a flat rate scheme, annual accounting scheme, or there are no schemes that reduce the administration burden? What are your thoughts on it? Okay. Right, okay. So I can see in the chat panel that we've got a complete mixture. So the flat rate scheme, that was something that we looked at actually last week, wasn't we? We did a question with regards to the flat rate scheme last week. The flat rate scheme, we can't really, well, the flat rate scheme does still have some administration. You've still got to do it. Don't worry, Matthew. You've still got to do a fair amount of administration. So the flat rate scheme, really, if you look at the rules of the advantages and disadvantages of these different schemes, the flat rate scheme doesn't really reduce any sort of admin. Okay. What about the annual accounting scheme? Think about it. A small business who does a normal standard scheme, yeah, Sarah, I'm loving your answer there. So a normal business that does a standard scheme, whether they're small or not, will still have a lot of admin if they do a normal scheme, because they're going to have to do 4 returns every year. Okay. With regards to the annual accounting scheme, you only have to submit 1 return a year. So therefore, all the normal work that you would have to do quarterly is only going to have to be done once. Now, I appreciate there'll be quite a lot to do. However, doing it once is better than doing it 4 times. Does that make sense? Yeah? So I can actually tell you, I don't really like to go straight to answer normally, but the answer actually is the annual accounting scheme. It can't be the bottom one simply because I've ticked 1. Okay, so there is a scheme that reduces the administration burden because the annual accounting scheme does. Again, the cash accounting scheme has got quite a bit of admin to it. It has benefits for other things, but it has admin attached to it. Okay, so the correct answer, and I think quite a few of you got that right, and I just want you to think about it really. Anything that reduces doing something 4 times a year to doing it once a year is going to reduce admin, and that's what the annual accounting scheme does. It allows you to submit 1 return annually. The other thing is, do you get any longer to submit it and pay? Can anybody remember that? What's your thoughts on that, guys? Do we get... Yeah, you do, Sarah. You get 2 months, and Amy, that's right. Normally, you get 1 month and 7 days, or 1 month, 7 days, and working days if you've got direct debits. But with this, with the annual accounting scheme, and I suppose it's because, you know, you've got quite a lot of work to put together, but you've got 2 months, which means you've got a longer period to pay it as well. So there's lots of benefits of the annual accounting scheme. Right. Just bear with me. Have a look at Part C. Which scheme for small businesses gives immediate bad debt relief? What are your thoughts on it? You've got the flat rate scheme, you've got the annual accounting scheme, you've got cash accounting scheme, and randomly there are no schemes that reduce the admin burden. Yeah, that's a bit random. It's definitely not that, because that doesn't even relate to this question. Ooh, I'm loving this. Right, I can see that a lot of you have put, and I can see that Sarah's put a bit of a reason there. Quite a few of you are confident enough to tell me you think it's the cash accounting scheme. I just want to know why. So look at the question. It gives immediate bad debt relief. Anybody know why? Yes, 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 yes. Right. Brilliant. I can see a lot of people almost explaining what they're, well, I understand what you're trying to say. So basically, with normal schemes, not cash accounting, with normal schemes, what happens is that when you sell goods and on an accruals basis, which basically means that, well, the way to look at it is when you sell goods and when you purchase goods, the rule is that you account for them in the period in which, okay, so let's say you have got a VAT period of January through to March, and somewhere in that time, so let's say you sold something, you had an invoice, you sold something between January to March. So it's going to go in your VAT return that's going to be submitted 7th of May, okay? With cash accounting, the rule is, so what would normally happen is, irrelevant of the fact that I've got, in fact, ignore the words with cash accounting, let me just carry on talking. So under normal circumstances, what you would do, you would account for that sale on the VAT return between the period of January to March, as long as that was the actual tax point, okay, which we looked at last week. So that's that, okay. What that hasn't taken into account of is the fact that you haven't received that money yet, because it doesn't work on the monetary situation. It works on accounting for it in the period in which it was incurred. So for example, or the period in which you sold it. So let's just for ease say that the tax point was February the 12th. Therefore, I'm going to put that in my return that covers January through to March, okay? Problem is, I've then sent over the VAT on that sale to the VAT man. He has got my money. I know he's not an E, and I know he's not called VAT man, but that's just how I like to call him. I'm not saying he's an E for any other reason than it's just something that I do, okay? So he's then got that money. Problem is, I haven't received the money from my customer yet. I've sent him an invoice. I haven't received the money. Then what goes and happens is, sometimes we get the money, a lot of the times we get the money, but sometimes we find that the company have done a runner and they're on the Costa del Sol living it up with our money or with our goods, or they've made money from something that we've sold to them. Maybe they've sold it on. Maybe they had no intention whatsoever of ever paying us. Or maybe it's something a little bit sadder than that and their business has unfortunately gone under. The fact is this, is that I have now got a problem with regards to a bad debt. Now, a bad debt's great because eventually I will be able to get my money back from the VAT man, and we're going to look at a question on that shortly. And there's certain rules that have to be followed. It has to be a certain amount of time. You've got to have paid the original output VAT, all that kind of thing. But the simple fact is that I now have got the hassle of trying to get my VAT back and accounting for it and remembering to do it, etc., etc. Okay. What the cash accounting scheme does is say, until my customer pays me the money that they owe me, I will not give the VAT man the money that I owe them. Okay? Straight away, that completely eliminates you ever suffering any bad debt issues, because you're never going to, well, you might still have a bad debt, you might not get paid, but you haven't got to deal with the VAT side of it, because you've never paid the VAT man what you owe them until you receive the money from your customer. That is the cash accounting scheme. Does that sound familiar, guys? Do we seem okay with that? So that's the answer. It's not the annual accounting or the flat rate scheme, because they both take into account you're still going to get bad debts, but with cash accounting you're not. You're still going to get a bad debt. It doesn't matter what happens. If you sell something to somebody and they go under, you're not going to get paid for it. But the simple hassle-free bit that you've got with cash accounting is that you won't have to pay the VAT until you get the money yourself to pay it. What's the downside to cash accounting, would you say? What's the other side of paying output VAT? Come on, guys. You must know this. You can't claim the VAT back straight away. I can't claim my input VAT back until I've paid for those goods. Now, you know, that can be a little bit of a problem. So you might be relying on that money coming back. So that's the downside. But then again, that's not what this question is asking. It's saying which one of the schemes would give immediate bad debt relief, and it's the cash accounting scheme that does. How do we feel about that? Brilliant. Well done. Good work, guys. Right, we finally finished task 3. Ooh, task 4. Let's have a look at this then. See how we get on. So, task 4. This is, it's one of those there's probably some information in the reference material on this. It's not perfect. I would say that this is probably one of those tasks that you've got to actually do some work on, just because there's a few things that you need to know, and it's not always going to be readily available for you in the reference material. Okay, so task 4 says that Tom has recently registered his business for VAT. So listen to what I've just said. He's only just recently registered his business for VAT. His first, let me just make that, not like I'm trying to draw attention to the word first. His first VAT return is for the quarter to the 30th of June, X8. So April, May, June of 2008. He submits his VAT return online on the 3rd of August. Unfortunately, he forgets to pay the VAT at the same time. And only realised that he hadn't paid this on the 9th of August, when he then immediately transferred payment to the Hmrc. Right, first of all, before we even talk about this, if our quarter ends 30th of June, when will payment have to be made? Yeah, Sarah, perfect. What about everybody else? Before, hopefully you're typing and not looking at what Sarah's written. You get 1 month and 7 days. So that would have to be submitted on the 7th of August. Well, it actually, in fact, it has to be with the VAT man, with the Hmrc by the 7th of August. Not just the return, but also the payment. So because he realised he hadn't paid it until the 9th of August, are we happy with the fact that he's paid it late? Yeah, happy with that. Brilliant. Okay, what we've got to do then, we've got to look at what we've read up here, and then we've got to look at some questions, okay, and decide if the following statements are true. Right. It says that there will be a surcharge liability notice period. This will initially cover the period to the 30th of June 2009. Do we think that is true or not? That's fantastic. It is true. You're absolutely right. For those of you that are not, and there's loads of people saying yes, so that's wonderful. A surcharge liability notice, I'm sure you'll remember, is basically like a warning, and it's saying, excuse me, just to let you know, you've been really naughty, and what we're going to do, because you've done something wrong, as in paid it late or submitted it late, we are going to keep an eye on you for the next 12 months. Now, it always goes from the first 12, from the end of the return period that it should have been paid. So because it was the 30th of June 2008, the Hmrc are now going to keep binoculars on him, if you like, on this company, on Tom, for the next 12 months. Now, the reason, what we need to do, what Tom needs to do, he needs to, pardon the saying, but keep his nose clean, which basically means don't do anything else wrong in that 12-month period. Okay, so those of you that said true, absolutely amazing. I think I've just seen Abby log in. Hiya, Abby, how are you? I think it was Abby. I'm sure I just admitted. Don't worry, I'll send you the recording, lovely. Don't worry at all. Hmrc. Oh, sorry, I'm really sorry, guys, who don't know these guys, but I can't believe, Abby, that Hmrc is saying late, tut. Alicia, have you heard this? Hmrc, his middle name is late. Anyway. Right, next one down. What are your thoughts? That's making me giggle so much because that's so funny. For those of us that know, Hmrc, that's hilarious. Right, the next bit down, it says that Tom, because of what he's done, must pay a penalty of 2% of the tax owed. What's your thoughts on that little statement? Why? Why is it not true? Yes, Sarah, I like the way you've put that. What about everybody else? Why? You said no, but why? Yeah, I'm loving it. Fantastic, guys. What you all need to realise is, and this is why I'm not trying to give the game away, this is why I wanted you to realise that it was his first return, which basically means it's his first error. Now, he will always get, even with the first error, the surcharge liability notice where somebody's going to watch them for 12 months. However, first offence, there's no penalty. Okay, so no penalty for the first default. And by default, it just means paid late, etc., or submitted late. So it's definitely not true. Well done, everyone. Right, what about the third one down? I had to read this question over and over and over because I kept looking back at the original question and thinking, I don't understand what it's saying. It's almost wants you to realise that from this point on, this line on, it's kind of like a new part to the question. Okay, so it says Tom was also late submitting and paying his VAT in the quarter to the 30th of September. So this was his next one. So he did it to the 30th of September, sorry, the 30th of June. And then we've got July, August and September. Okay, so that's his next period, his next quarter. So Tom was also late submitting and paying his VAT up to the quarter ending 30th of September. The surcharge liability notice period is now extended to 30th of September 2009. Is that true or false? Ooh. Have a really good think about this. So what it's saying is, it's not actually saying anywhere when he paid it. It just says that Tom was also late submitting and paying the VAT that covered the quarter 30th of September. It doesn't say when. Okay, right. I can see that there's a little bit of there's one person who said it's true. So absolutely perfect. You got that right. So I'm really proud of you for that. Let me explain why you've got it right. With a surcharge liability notice, if you do something wrong, so we know here is in a surcharge liability notice now that is going to go from the 30th of the 6th, 2000 or X8 to the 30th of the 6th, X9. So we know he's already done something wrong. If you then do something wrong again, what happens is that was meant to end. Let me just get my highlighter. That was meant to end in X9. But what we're now saying is because he's done something else wrong relating to the quarter that ends 30th of September X8, that will now be extended to the 30th of September X9. And this is the problem with the surcharge liability notice, which is why I use the term you've got to keep your nose clean. Because what happens is, if you make a mistake, you're in it for 12 months. If you don't do anything else wrong for 12 months, everything is good and you'll come out of it and everything will be fine. Okay? If you continue to make mistakes, that notice gets extended by another 12 months from the period in which your mistake was incurred. Does that make sense? Can you all hear me okay? Yeah? So those of you that said false, does that make sense? Have I kind of explained that? Yeah, I know. This is what I mean, Sarah. This is what I was like. I had to read it and read it and read it. So all you've got to think, I'm if you could see me, hang on a minute, let me just do this. Hang on a second. I really use my hands a lot when I'm teaching, and I can't obviously on here. So if you think about it, that was my period. And all that happens is if you make a mistake again within that 12-month period, because if you think about it, he's obviously, we've got the period of the 30th of June 2008 to the 30th of June 2009, okay? But if you look in 2008, 30th of September, that is within that same original 12-month period. So he's done something wrong again. So yeah, you're allowed one mistake for your first, you're allowed one get out of jail free card, I suppose, for your first thing, and any more after that. Anything you do wrong, anything basically that goes wrong in this period here, you just get it extended and extended and extended. Are we okay with that? Yeah, brill. Right. Again, I'm not sure how much work you've done on this bit, but it then says, and I'm really not sure that you'll absolutely know the answer to this. And this is why I was saying this is one of those where you might need to learn a little bit of stuff, get a bit of knowledge inside. It's not all going to be in the reference material. A lot of it is though. Okay. It says that Tom was also late submitting and paying his VAT in the quarter 30th of September. He must now pay a fine of 5%. Is that true or false? That is the absolute question, Sarah. That's the point of this question. Let me just highlight the bit of this that's the issue. So we know that this here was his first offence. We're all right with that. So we know by the time he makes this error, which is the late payment and the late submitting, it's his second offence, so he's not going to get off with it. Okay. If I can just show you our material, I'm going to write the page number down. If I can just go to page 85 of our material, it actually says it's between 2 and 15%. So therefore, most of the question was actually true, apart from the 5% bit. Does that make sense? And I'll be honest with you, I'm pretty sure I've looked. I don't think I can find this in the reference material. I'd love it if it was, but I'm sure I can't find it, which worries me because that's in our notes, which means if you're not an FI student, you would hope it's in your notes. I'm hoping somebody suddenly goes, Tracy, it's on page so-and-so of the reference material, but I'm sure I love it. Which I'm trying to say is, you know that information then, because you're not going to be able to find it in the exam. So, yes, we agree that they are going to get a fine, but it's not 5%. We don't know what it is. It's somewhere between 2 and 15. Well done, though. Actually, looking back at your comment, Hmrc, that were a good guess. That, not a guess. It was a good try. Between 5 and 15. So yeah, that is not true. Okay, so it's between 2 and 15%. Any questions on that, guys? Are we okay? Everyone all right? Oh, you're quiet today. I'm really sorry if you can hear a really weird noise, but I've decided to put water in the fridge and then it makes a real noise out of my water bottle when I'm trying to drink it. Right, I'm really trying to be good, guys. How many of you are good at drinking water? I'm absolutely terrible. But these last few days, I've been getting some awful headaches. I've been trying to drink lots of water. No, I think it's more because it's clear. It's actually saying, Amy, he must now pay a fine of 5%. but it's not necessarily 5%. Oh, that sounds nice. Does that make sense, Amy? I agree with you. I know that 5% is between 2 and 15, but that's not what is. If he thought he had to pay 5%, it might be 12. So I know that the 5 is between the figures that they've said, but it's got to be, would actually be, yeah, wouldn't be the answer. Okay, right, part B. Complete the following sentences. Right, these are your options down here, guys. This would be in your drop down box in the exam. So obviously, you know, at the side you have that little, that's meant to be a little drop down box. It doesn't look like a drop down box. I appreciate that. So a business may claim relief for bad debt provided that the something after the due date. Does anybody know the answer to that? How long does it have to be past the due date? Well done. That is absolutely right. It's got to be 6 months after the due date. Has been something in the accounts absolutely. You can't claim it back unless you've written it off in the accounts. Well done. Oh no, I've wrote that in the wrong box. Silly me. And the original something has been paid to the Hmrc. Absolutely. Oh, brilliant. What they're saying is, let's look at this from an absolute standing here, crossing my arms point of view and thinking, well, that's obvious. If this is all about trying to claim VAT back on a bad debt, you can't claim your VAT back if you haven't given the VAT to the VAT man already, because he's not going to give you back something that he hasn't already got. Does that make sense? So excusing my horrendous writing, that should have said 6 months. Yeah, exactly, Matthew, because obviously you're not going to have any bad debt situation with cash accounting. Yeah, good question. Right, part C. I think you'll hate this. I don't particularly like it because I can't find the answer to one of them anywhere. I know the answer, but I can't. What if you're new to this evening? What these guys would be able to tell you is I've tried to scrutinize and show you where I found that information, and I'm struggling to find the words to explain this first little bit. So it says, which of the following are true? An error of £2,000 of input VAT relating to a careless error can be corrected on the next return. Do we know if that's true or not? Now, that worries me. What's really funny is everybody's put true. I then said that worries me, and then Hmrc put false. And I'm sure it was just a timing thing and he was going to put false anyway. Okay, absolutely 100%, Sarah. It is false because it is pure and simply a careless error. Now, I have really struggled, guys from FI, I've really struggled to even show this in the notes, like where it uses those exact words. Don't worry, Amy, that's why we're here. It's all right, Ellen, and you, that's why we're doing these courses. That's why you're spending your time with me on a Thursday evening. Is it Thursday or Tuesday? It's Thursday, isn't it? Right, so if it's a careless error, it has to be, must be separately disclosed. And what that means is you fill in a special form to the VAT man. You can't just do it on the next return. What are your thoughts on this? A simple transposition error in an underpayment of £9,000 can be correct in the next VAT return. Now, can I just say, does anybody remember the rules? Below £10,000, you can correct it on the next return. Between 10,000 and 50,000, you can correct it on the next return as long as it is less than 1% of the turnover. But if it's more than £50,000, it has to be separately disclosed. So what are your thoughts on this one then? A simple transposition error resulting in an underpayment of £9,000 can be corrected on the next VAT return. Do we think that that's true or false? Yeah, it's true. The only thing I would add to that, but this question, if that was a question in the exam, the answer is pure and simply it's true. I'm just going to add something on to that. Just so you know, I would have said my add-on would be as long as it was not a careless error. But it doesn't mention that in the question, so I don't know why I'm mentioning it, but I'm just trying to get your head around it. If that had have been a careless error, then doesn't matter that it's below the threshold, or deliberate, absolutely, Sarah, wouldn't have made any difference. That's right. So that's correct. Perfect. Right. This is where I'm going to go into our notes. For anybody who's an FI student, I'm just going into page 83, and I'm sure the rest of you guys who've got material from your colleges will also have this somewhere in there. I'm just going to quickly go to page 83. I'm only telling you the page just in case you've got it open. What page was that? So what we've got on here is this little box thing, okay, that talks about penalties. Now, I'm pretty sure that I've looked, please tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I've looked in the reference material. Usually, if I could give you the answer in the reference material, I normally show you it in the reference material, but I'm not sure it was in there. And I think that's why I've suggested showing you my notes to explain it. Which is unfortunate because that means you've got to learn it. Wrong, but I'm sure that if it had been in the reference material, I'd have given you the page number or the reference point in the reference material. So I'm going to keep this on my screen and I'm going to read out the question. The maximum penalty for a deliberate error that was not concealed is 70%. Is that true or false? Looking at that. So maximum, deliberate but not concealed, 70%. Perfect. That is absolutely true. Well done. So that is true. Right. Next one then. What about, I'll read the question and you look at these. What about the minimum penalty for a deliberate and concealed error is 20%. Is that true or false? Why is it false? Yeah, it's 30%. Absolutely. So this is your minimum. This is 30%. Perfect. Is anybody frantically flicking through the reference material trying to find these? If you are, please, if you find it, tell me. Have you found it, Lenka? Because I couldn't find it. I'm sure I couldn't. It's like I couldn't find the words careless errors must be disclosed, but I know that they are. No, I can't find it either, which is frustrating, which means you're going to need that. Lenka, and anybody else that's new, have you actually got that in a set of material, or do you want me to send you a picture of it tomorrow? I'll send you that box just in case. Would that be helpful to everybody? Yeah? Great. Let me just write that down on my list of to-dos. What did I say? Page 83. Yeah, I'll send that over. I know, guys, what I'm going to do to save just taking individual people's names, I'll send it to you all, and I appreciate a lot of you are FI students, so you've got it anyway. 83 box send. Right, happy days. I'll do that. Okay. Where am I now? So that was false, as we discovered. What about the last one? Now, this is all about your knowledge on VAT returns, I think, and how much you know and how much you've done on them so far. But it says a business has discovered 2 errors. That it did not account for VAT payable of £1,000 and that it did not account for VAT reclaimable on a purchase of £4,000. The business should include an adjustment in box 1 of the next VAT return. What's your thoughts? The question is, do they owe us or do we owe them? So what we did, we forgot that we owe £1,000. So we forgot to pay them £1,000, but we didn't claim back £4,000. So they owe us £4,000. Okay. So if it says the business should be included in box 1 as an adjustment, well, if I adjust it in box 1 is output VAT. If I adjust it in box 4, surely I'm going to end up paying them money when actually they owe us £3,000. Right, guys. So am I going to put it in box 1? Yeah, they owe us, Lenka. What box would it be, Evelyn? Yeah, Evelina, sorry. Yeah. What we would do, we would net them off. Well, Sarah, the problem that you've got, well, yeah, exactly. What I would probably do, we would do an adjustment on the next return. I'd put the £1,000 through box 1. I'd put the £4,000 through box 4. So ultimately, the box, I think Amy's probably said it right, that would show the true figure, if there was nothing else on the VAT return, which there would be box 5. But the simple fact is, to answer this question, do we include it in box 1? We can't include it in box 1 because we'd have to do it in box 1 and box 4. Quite right, Sarah. Does everybody understand that? So if I just put, it can't be that, must be, that would be box 1, that would be box 4. That's meant to be a 1. Are we all okay? Well done. So as this little bit, and I know Lenka was looking earlier, as this little bit worried us a bit that, you know, some of it's down anywhere to see. So actually these things, and I remember somebody coming out of an exam and said, Tracy, I'm going to be honest, I didn't revise as much on the penalties as I should because I didn't really think they'd come up. And I was like, well, they're going to come up. You would have been told that they were going to come up in the exam, and they did. So it's probably worth looking. And like I say, I'll send you that little box tomorrow. I'll just take a little picture of it and send it over. Right, fantastic. Let's move on. Task 5. I like task 5, particularly the bottom one. Right, okay. Task 5. Right, okay, guys. ABC Limited makes a credit sale of a standard rated item at a price of £100 excluding VAT. The customer is offered 5% settlement discount if they pay within 14 days. My first question is, how much would the invoice that's going to be sent out be for? How much would it be for? Not was it before? I'm trying not. How much would it? Yes, I'm not explaining myself very well. I think it was my accent then that made it sound strange. It would. I would send an invoice out which would have £100 net. It would have £20 VAT, and it would have £120 gross. Right, can I ask you all, at the point of me sending out that invoice, did I know if the customer was going to take the settlement discount and pay me earlier? Well done. I think you all know where I'm going with this. We don't know. We haven't got a clue. So what you would do, you would send out the full invoice and then you'd deal with it later. Okay? So we've got to say if we think the following statements are correct. The company could assume that the discount will be taken and reflect this on the invoice. What are your thoughts on that straight away? Absolutely, Ben. Why? I'll tell you exactly. I'll tell you the key word. How can I assume? Well done, Sarah. Yeah, how can I assume that somebody's going to do that? You're not allowed to do that. I have got to send out the full invoice, and if they end up taking the settlement discount and paying me early, I deal with it then. Correct. So it can't possibly be that answer. Right. Now I've got to say, the next two are totally against anything that, not that I know, but I would have never dealt with it like this. However, the company could show the position, assuming no discount will be taken. So, for example, the sale was 100, the VAT was 20. If the customer takes a discount, they could then raise a credit note for £5 with VAT of £1. Do you think that's possible? Is that something that anybody has ever seen? Yeah. Now, I don't like it just because I'm not sure that that's how we do it. And anybody who's done level 2 with me, when we did bookkeeping transactions and I did all the T accounts, I wouldn't have done that. What I would have had, a VAT T account that would have had 20 quid in it, and I wouldn't have raised a credit note as such. I would have just done a journal and I would have reduced the VAT by £1. But anyway, don't matter. The answer is true. You could do that. What about the next one? The company could show both positions on the invoice, i.e. the VAT if the discount is taken and the VAT if it is not taken. So the customer reflects the correct level of input VAT depending on whether the discount is taken. Now, I don't like this, but being somebody who spent my youth working in purchase ledger, I've seen lots of invoices come through that actually, Ellen, it is possible. Sometimes what they'll do, they'll actually put your normal, they put that, but then they'd separately have it if the discount was taken, just to tell them, just to give them the amount that they could claim back. Because if they claim back 20 quid and really it should have only been 19, for example. So actually, as strange as it is, and I don't like, it is possible. Right, that being the case, I'm pretty sure that just by answering the top 3 and having that little discussion up here clearly answers the bottom one, which is the discount will have no effect on the VAT, which will be based on the pre-discounted price, i.e. the £100 plus VAT of 20. So will a discount? Yeah, I know, Ellen, it is. Yeah, I get where you're coming from. Yeah, and a lot, and I think in our notes we do look at a credit note point of view as well. But even in real life, I probably wouldn't have raised a credit note. I've probably just done a journal to correct it. But yeah, it is possible to do it that way. Some companies do. What about this one though? Surely, by looking at what we've just said in the top 3, the fact that it says will have no effect. Well, does it have effect if there's discount? Does it have an effect if there's discount on VAT? So I've sent the VAT man 20 quid, but actually it should have only been 19. Therefore, does it have effect? Of course it does. I know it's only a quid in this scenario, but it might not only be. And plus, £1 to the Hmrc is probably quite important. And £1 is better off in our pocket. Yeah, so absolutely right. It will have an effect on the VAT, pure and simply that if I pay them, I've paid the VAT man out of good faith 20 quid. So I've paid output tax in box one of £20. When I receive the money from the customer, I don't receive 120 quid. I receive 120 quid minus the discount that I've offered. Therefore, the VAT will not be £20, it'll be less. So therefore, it will have an effect because it means that the VAT is going to be less than 20. Does that make sense, everyone? Are we happy with that? Yeah? Lovely. So it can't possibly be that. Right, this might be the first time I'm going to ask you to think about this now. You might actually have to get, you might need a calculator, you might not, you might just use my workings. But some students absolutely detest this next style of question. Okay. Just because you've really I'm not saying it's because you've got to think, because you've got to think for everything, but they do really make you think. And not only that, it really does test your double entry skills, I think. So I'm going to go through every one of these. I'm going to call that number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and I'm going to do some workings for it. So I don't know if you've got a piece of paper and you want to do it yourself at the same time. I'm just kind of going to give you an idea of how I would answer this question. So it says that a sole trader has prepared a draft VAT return, and it shows on the VAT return that we owe the VAT man £5,672. Okay, you notice that she has correctly included all, the VAT on all fuel. However, she has not included the fuel scale charge. Now, hopefully we'll know what that is. Let me give you my 2-minute version of the fuel scale charge. 5B. Oh, does it go straight from A to C? Oh, don't worry, just ignore it, guys. I have no idea, Ryan. Should have known you'd notice that, Ryan. I don't know. It's obviously gone missing. It's man down. Missing in action. Right. Okay, so fuel scale charge. I'm not going to go into it too deep, but basically, if you have got a car, you can, the VAT man will let you claim. So let's say you've got a company car, and when you put petrol in, there are certain things, certain rules. So it could be that you only get you can only claim VAT on the mileage that relates to work related. It could be that the rule is that they will let you claim the VAT on your fuel, whether it was private or personal. So you might have driven to Scarborough, and it might be that the company you work for says, don't worry, we'll pay for it all. We'll pay for all your fuel, which is great. Now, the VAT man says, and there are certain rules on this, but the VAT man says that if you want to, there are a couple of things you can do. You can cut your nose off to spite your face and not claim VAT on any fuel. You can, second point would be only claim the VAT back on work-related or business-related mileage. Or third one, claim all the VAT back on whether you've gone to Scarborough for the day or whether you've gone to see a client in Leeds, okay? But they say you must give us some money for us allowing you to do that. Now, it's a win-win situation, actually, because first of all, it would be stupid to claim none at all. It would be silly to claim no VAT. That's silly. Secondly, it would be it's quite a traumatic thing. Traumatic's a bit of a strong word, but it's quite a lot of work to claim the VAT back just on business miles, because it's a lot of faff. You've got to literally, if you go out of your road and you go to get a McDonald's on your way to work in the morning, that's not business related. So you'd need to deduct that mileage off your day's mileage. If you went to Morrison's at lunchtime to grab a Cornish pasty or something, or a, I don't know, a salad sandwich, that's not business. So there's a lot of work needed to differentiate between what's business and what's private. So what the taxman says is, it's all right, we'll let you claim it all back, but what we need you to do, you're going to pay us a thing called a fuel scale charge, which means we pay them some money, okay? And I'm going to completely make numbers up here. So we might be able to claim box 4. So the beautiful thing about it is we might be able to claim input VAT on box 4 of, I don't know, 500 quid. And for the benefit of that, because we are claiming both business and private, the VAT man says, for that, you must pay us some output VAT of 300 quid. Now, can I just say that I have literally not got those numbers written down anywhere. I just made them up as I was going along. What I'm trying to say to you is, the whole point is, it's still worth doing. Even though you've got to pay the VAT man a fuel scale charge, it's just a charge that they're going to charge you for allowing you to claim back business and private VAT. You're still going to win, because chances are you're still going to be able to get back more than what you're going to have to pay for the pleasure of claiming it back. Does that make sense? Does everybody understand that? Oh, you know what? I don't think I've said hello to Sam White today. Hello, Sam White. How are you? Right, fabulous. So it says here, I suppose, yeah, I'm good, thank you, Sam. Stop trouble causing Lewis. I think it will all come down to what the business decides to do, Matthew. So they would have to look at, yeah. But the point is, it doesn't matter if you decided to go down the route of claim for business and private. You will always, it don't matter how much you use, you will always end up claiming more back than you owe them. Okay, right. So let's just have a look at this. State how the inclusion of the fuel scale charge will affect the payment due to the Hmrc. So what we're saying is, you notice that you'd correctly included VAT on the fuel scale. However, you did not include the fuel scale charge in respect of the private fuel. Okay, sorry, I've not said that right at all. Let me read that again. You notice that she's correctly included the VAT on all fuel. However, she forgot to include the fuel scale charge. In other words, the bit that we owe the VAT man. We forgot to include it because the fuel scale charge gets paid in box 1. Yeah, that's better, Matthew. Ellen, that's perfect. Absolutely. Think of it like this. I owed the VAT man some money and I forgot to include it. So what's it going to do when I correct it? It's going to increase the amount that we have to pay the VAT man. Does everybody understand? Because you feel like you've stopped answering a little bit. I know it's 4 minutes over when I should have finished. Do we get that, guys? Yeah? Brilliant, well done. So you're absolutely right, output VAT will increase. Right, I am going to carry on for another 5 minutes because I want to finish this question. Feel free to leave if you want to leave, but if you're new to the session, I need you to stay behind so I can give you some information what I need you to do after the cost. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to send you any details. Right, okay, very quickly. The correct VAT payable, right, that's an important bit. The correct VAT that is payable by a business for the quarter ending 31st of December is shown on the VAT return as £61,870. Let me just tell you what that sentence is saying. It's telling me that the figure on the VAT return is the correct figure, because it says the correct VAT that is payable is 61,870. Okay. However, so this is your big posh VAT return, isn't it? I'm not going to draw a VAT return, don't worry. With all your boxes in, box 1, etc., etc., etc. Then you've got a VAT account. Okay? And what this is saying in the mock, it says that the figure on the VAT return is right. We do indeed owe £61,870. However, the VAT account at the end of the period shows a credit balance, and it should be a credit balance because a credit balance shows that we've got a liability. But the problem that we've got is the figures don't match. And we know for an absolute fact that it's this figure that is wrong. And so are we all right with that so far? Do you understand the wording of it? I want to make sure you're clear on what it's saying. If you can hear me, I'm just going to give it a minute to sort itself out. It normally does. Just give it 1 minute. Hello, can you hear me now? Is that better? Yeah, I'm talking now, Matthew. Can you hear me? So you guys can all hear me now. Great. It does it. Don't know why it does it. It drives me insane. Can I just check? Are we all happy with what I've just said? I know you didn't hear it all, but basically, we're saying that the thing that is correct is the 61,870. Okay, so they're telling us that the VAT return is the correct count, is the wrong figure. Are we happy with that? Do we understand the wording? Fantastic. Brilliant. So it says, which error explains this difference? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just go onto my workings. So we know that the VAT return is telling us it's 61,870. Okay. And we know that that is correct. The VAT account, as in the T account, is telling us it's 62,377. That's wrong. Okay. What we're going to do now is look at each of these. So I've numbered them and decide which error explains the difference. Right. What I'm going to do, I've decided, is I'm going to start at number 4. Okay. That's meant to say 4. Right. Number 4 says, VAT on purchase return not being recorded in the VAT control account. So what we're saying is which error explains the difference. Okay. So if we've got a balance, so this is number 4, we know that our balance is 62,377. Is VAT on purchases a debit or a credit? Okay. However, that on a purchase return, therefore, should be a what? A credit. Yeah. And I'll tell you why. What happens when we purchase goods? When we purchase goods, we can claim it back. Okay. So it's going to be cash coming back in. It would be an asset, be a debit. However, if we have returned those goods, we have to give the VAT man that money back. So it should have been on the credit side. So if I put that VAT, any figure, it doesn't tell me what figure it is. So I have that figure, let's just call it for now. Oh, it seems to me that they've missed the numbers out. It should say 507. If I put that on there, what will my end balance be? Anyone? 62. Hang on. Let's have a look. Let me check it myself. I'm only asking you because I've not got it written down. Would that not be 62,884? Now look at where we're trying to get back to. We're trying to get back to 61,870. So by doing that, is that not just going to increase the error or increase the figure? Okay. So the answer to that, number 4, is no, it would increase. So it's not number 4. Okay, right. Number 3, very quickly. Oh, it's not a 1. 62,377 again. Let's have a look at what number 3 says. So it says that the VAT at £507 of VAT due on EU acquisitions has not been recorded. Does anybody know where EU acquisitions goes on the VAT return? What box number? Absolutely, Evelina. It is. It's box number 2. Okay. Box number 2 is added to box number 1 to get to box number 3. And box number 3 of VAT or output VAT that we owe the VAT man. Okay. So if it has not been recorded, if we then recorded it, we'd owe him that money. Do you all agree? It would increase the output VAT. So therefore, if we then recorded it into our VAT account, that would mean that we would have to further credit because we'd forgot to record it and we owe that money. So it's got to be a liability. We would put the 507 there, which is going to take us to the same scenario. Guys, do we understand that? So we're increasing the liability even more. So the answer to number 3 has got to be no, it would increase. Amy, are you okay? Are you still there? Yeah, you happy? You okay? Right, number 2. I know it's boring this now and you've seen it lots. 62,377. Right then, number 2, an overclaim of input VAT of £507 from the previous period has not been corrected. Okay. So what's your thoughts on that? We made an overclaim. We put too much in box 4. How are we going to get that back? What box number would I put it in? What if I've previously claimed too much money back? How will I pay it back to the VAT man on the next period? I'll pay it back to them on box number 1. And anything that goes in box number 1 increases output VAT. So for me to pay it back, I owe it back to the VAT man. Therefore, it's a credit because it's a liability. Surprise, surprise, I'm in exactly the same position again of 62,884. So the answer to that is no, it would increase. Now, do you know why I didn't start at box number 1? Sorry, at question number 1. I didn't want to excite you all straight away. Yeah, that's what I thought, Ellen. But I only realised when I started. Right, number 1. Balance of 62,377. That account. Right, what does number 1 say? Bad debt relief of £507 has not been posted to the VAT control account. So we get VAT or bad debt VAT relief because what's happened is 6 months ago or 7 months ago, we sold some goods on credit and we paid the VAT man the output VAT that was owed. Okay? What it's saying is we should have claimed back £507 worth of VAT because the debt has now gone bad. It's more than 6 months old, therefore we can claim it back. I should have debited £507 because I'm claiming it back. It's going to be an asset. I'm getting it back from VAT man because 7 months ago I paid him that money in good faith. It's not my fault that I didn't get paid from my customer. And the rule says that you can claim it back. So had I have done that, I would have, I'm not going to write all figures in, I would have had a carry down and a brought down figure on the credit side of, surprise, surprise, 62,377. Does that now match my VAT return? Does that match the VAT return, guys? Yeah, up there, look, there's your VAT return, 61,870. 61. Oh, hang on a minute, what have I done? What an idiot. I've wrote the wrong figure. What an idiot. 61,870 that should be. No wonder you probably sat there not answering because I'm writing all the wrong figures in. Sorry, brought down 61,870. So I know it's hard, Amy. Don't worry, it's all right. Don't worry. Let's just keep going and see how we get on. You're doing great, and you can always ask me questions. So, yeah, what we've done with that, and actually, Amy, just going back to this question, nobody likes it. They're horrible because you've really got to think about the double entry side of things. And had you have put it right, what would the end figure be? And I just keep going, and I always do a little T account. As if some people hate T accounts, I think they are like a gift. Okay, they really help. I think for me personally, that's my thoughts on them. And I know that the only one that is going to get me the figure that they told me in the question was correct is that 61,870. I don't blame you, Ellen, I do too, and I'm a tutor. So who agrees that that question would probably be a question that you'll go back over and have another look at later? But on face value, did it seem okay so far? You'd need to have another look at it. Little Josh is there, look. You'd need to have another look at it. But trust me, do a T account, work through it, look at what would happen if you corrected the mistake. If you end up with right figure, you know that's the answer. Right, I'm going to call it a day. Well, I got to task 5. So actually, I feel pretty confident that as long as we put our skates on next week, I'll finish this mock. No problems at all. There's a VAT return question. Happy days. Right, okay. You wonderful people, if you are not new this evening, I am more than happy for you to log off. You've been wonderful. As always, I hope it's been helpful. And you know that what I'll do, I'll send you